Thank you, Madam Chair, and Ambassador, thank you for being here, and thank you for your good hard work. I go back and forth between trying to decide whether you or Ambassador Mitchell has the tougher job, and probably from week to week it goes back and forth between the two of you. I wanted to ask you, the question that I wrestle with most, and that is, I think that our military can clear these areas that the Taliban occupy. I think we can build, through USAID and through your good efforts, we can build infrastructure, we can build capacity. The question I have is, not can we hold, but can the Afghans hold? Once a year from now we start drawing down our troops, can the Afghans hold, or will the Taliban simply come back? And whether they can hold will depend on whether they have a form of governance that the Afghan people are willing to fight for and to die for. Right now, the Afghan people are very disturbed by the level of corruption, not only in the regime, but on a day-to-day level. The fact that to get their crops from one place to another, they're going to bribe 5 people on the way. That a police commander has to pay for his job and then can sell the subordinate positions to people who can then stop people at checkpoints and charge them. The sort of day-to-day graft, which is so widespread that a relatively small number of cases at the higher levels of Afghan government may not deal with the endemic problem. And what I want to ask you, Ambassador, is how can we measure, how can we know if we're making progress towards the Afghans being able to hold once we start drawing down? How do we measure that, if it can be measured? Do you see anything that gives you confidence that we can get there in the year's time or longer? What should give us some either confidence or pause about the Afghans' ability to hold once we start drawing down?
Congressman Schiff, that is the core question of our entire strategy, and you've described it very well. People often talk about clear, hold, and build. It's really clear, hold, build, and transfer. And it's that fourth area that you've really addressed. The American and NATO troops can hold any acre of land in the world with force, and they can clear it before they hold it. But the project will only succeed if the local authorities gradually replace the international forces. That is why it is a linked civilian-military mission. But it begins with security. Rajiv Shah and I are committed to agriculture programs, rule of law, governance, subnational governance, and many other programs, health and education foremost among them. But those can only work if the Afghans can take care of their own security. And here I want to underscore a point which I don't think is appreciated enough, and yet which has a direct impact on the work of this important committee. And that is that the military forces, as the President has said, will not stay forever. Our commitment, as he said, is not open-ended on the combat role. But we will have to recognize that there's a long-term economic development and security assistance component to our presence there as we assist the Afghans to achieve the goals you outlined. Specifically, in July of next year, as President Obama has made clear, we will begin the phase down, the drawdown of American and allied combat troops. However, the pace and scope will be determined by the situation on the ground following the policy review. But there has been a widespread misunderstanding here, which I hope we can clarify. That does not mean the end of the international support of Afghanistan, because the issue you talked about is a long-term issue. A country that's been shattered by war, 30 years of continuous different forms of war, with a very difficult situation on its borders, particularly the Pakistani border, needs international support, and we cannot repeat what happened in 1989. So to be specific, the training of the military and the police, the support and assistance of the police and the military will be a longer-term project. And the work that Rajiv Shah and his very brave men and women in AID are doing will also have to continue long after the combat role is finished. Because what you're talking about, transferring from the international community led by the U.S. to Afghan leadership, is a gradual process. Look at the police. 85% are illiterate. You can't have an illiterate police force, but you can't turn it into a literate police force overnight. Agriculture is our most successful program because they have such a great tradition. But rule of law, extraordinarily difficult, but we're committed to it. And that's why we come back to your committee over and over again to ask for your support in shaping and continuing this set of programs.
Thanks, Madam Chair.